At 6:41 a.m., the cul-de-sac watched clumps of blonde hair drift across my lake like algae with a stylist. Sandra Withers, HOA president with her signature sun hat and whistle, was on the embankment screeching with a shrill voice, "This lagoon is hostile," while the fire department unspooled caution tape and a county environmental officer calmly asked, "Ma'am, why did you swim past 6 warning signs and a locked chain?" I'm Nolan Pike. I bought a house at Willow Marsh Estates because the backyard came with a small stormwater lake and the promise of herons instead of neighbors. I work from home, make quiet coffee, and fish for invasive golf balls. The lake's mine to maintain, but federally permitted and posted like a museum with signs reading, "No swimming," "Chemical treatment schedule," and "Private property." Enter Sandra Withers, armed with her clipboard and faux pearl war paint, who believes the HOA outranks physics. She calls my lake community vibe space, and my fence emotional fencing. Sandra warmed up by citing me for what she called unsociable shoreline. She took photos through a knothole and wrote me up for possessive water posture. She started a next-door thread titled, "Why is Nolan hoarding moisture?" which garnered 17 angry reactions and 42 confused comments. Then she pried my no swimming signs off with what I can only describe as artisanal crowbars she apparently ordered from an online HOA supply store. She taped up a poster at the community pool announcing, "Sun Goddess Plunge, Lake Access Reclaimed," and delivered a violation letter accusing me of weaponized water. I caught her on my doorbell camera twice, rattling my side gate at 3 in the morning and whispering with an eerie tone, "Amenities belong to the people." The whole situation started 3 months ago when I moved in. Sandra showed up within hours of the moving truck leaving, measuring my mailbox with a ruler and informing me it was 2 inches too tall. When I mentioned the lake was private property, she laughed with a condescending tone and said, "Nothing is private in an HOA community, Mr. Pike." She then tried to schedule mandatory lake appreciation hours, where residents could gather on my property for what she called aquatic mindfulness sessions. When I politely declined and showed her my property deed, she declared with an imperious voice, "We'll see about that." Her campaign escalated quickly. First came the petition demanding I install a community dock. Then the noise complaints about the aggressive splashing of the herons. She filed 17 different violations against me in 2 weeks, including hostile landscaping, antisocial fish feeding, and my personal favorite, maintaining water in a threatening manner. She held an emergency HOA meeting where she proposed a motion to declare my lake a shared emotional resource. When the board voted it down, she stormed out shouting, "This isn't over." The harassment intensified over the next month. Sandra organized what she called Freedom to Swim rallies on the sidewalk outside my house every Saturday morning at 6 a.m. sharp. She'd stand there with a megaphone declaring with a righteous tone, "Water is a human right. Nolan Pike is a liquid dictator." She printed flyers with my face photoshopped onto a cartoon villain hoarding water bottles and distributed them to every house in a 3-mile radius. She contacted the local historical society claiming my lake was a heritage swimming hole from the 1800s, despite the fact that the entire development was built in 2015 on what used to be a parking lot for an abandoned mall. She tried to get the local news involved by claiming I was running an illegal fish farm, because she'd seen me catch and release a bass. When the reporter showed up and I explained it was recreational fishing on my own property, Sandra interrupted with an accusatory tone, "He's training those fish to attack swimmers. I've seen him feeding them performance-enhancing corn." The reporter left after 5 minutes, but not before Sandra grabbed his microphone and declared, "The people demand aquatic justice." Her most bizarre attempt involved hiring what she called a water rights attorney, who turned out to be her cousin Randy, who sold insurance and had watched several legal dramas on Netflix. Randy showed up at my door in an ill-fitting suit carrying a briefcase full of printed Wikipedia articles about maritime law and ancestral water claims. He informed me with a practiced, serious voice that Sandra had established historical swimming precedent by looking at the property from the street for 6 consecutive weeks, which according to him triggered something called observational easement rights. When I asked him if he was actually a lawyer, he said with confidence, "I'm pursuing an online degree in legal studies from CaribbeanUniversity.net. County posted the treatment schedule that Thursday. Copper-based algaseed and a harmless blue dye to deter growth, all within permit, all on my log sheet, all plastered on every sign in letters 3 inches tall. I locked the access chain with a heavy-duty padlock, set out orange cones in a line across the path, and emailed the entire HOA board with the treatment notice. I even hand-delivered a copy to Sandra's mailbox and took a photo for my records. At dawn, Sandra cut the chain with bolt cutters, marched past the signs with a GoPro strapped to her temple, and waded in for what she called on her live stream a victory lap for community rights. She narrated her trespass with a triumphant tone. "Today we reclaim what was stolen from us. The people's lake shall be free." The water was a deep blue from the dye, which she described as Nolan's pathetic attempt at intimidation. She dove under, surfaced with a victory whoop, and began doing backstroke while chanting, "HOA, HOA, water rights for the USA." 10 minutes into her aquatic protest, her tone changed dramatically. She started swimming faster toward shore, her voice rising in panic. "Something's wrong. My scalp is burning." She bolted out of the water howling like a wounded animal, clutching a fistful of her own hair like a trophy from a war she lost. The GoPro captured everything as clumps of bleached blonde strands came away in her hands. By noon she'd filed a police report, tagged 3 local news stations on social media, called 911 4 times, and accused me of chemical assault via private pond. She posted photos of her patchy scalp on every social media platform with captions like, "Assault by algaecide," and "Nolan Pike is a menace." She started a GoFundMe for what she called hair restoration after chemical warfare, and claimed I had deliberately poisoned the lake to harm her. She showed up at my door with a neck brace she definitely didn't need, threatening to sue me for emotional hair damage, and demanding $1 million in damages. The county environmental officer, state DEQ, and because the mailbox had been meddled with during an HOA blast email campaign, a USPS inspector all showed up like a crossover episode nobody asked for. My logbook, permits, and treatment invoices checked out perfectly. Every chemical measurement was within federal guidelines. The officer held up Sandra's cut padlock on camera while shaking his head in disbelief. My doorbell footage showed her removing the warning signs 2 days prior, stacking them behind her garage like trophies. Then my neighbor Tom produced a gem. He had been recording Sandra's garage activities for weeks after she'd cited him for aggressive lawn mowing patterns. His footage showed Sandra mixing pool shock and 40-volume peroxide in her garage for her sun goddess hair lightening routine just an hour before her lake swim. She'd been live streaming that too, calling it Beauty Bootcamp with Sandra, and explaining how she discovered this miracle hair lightening hack on the internet. The county chemist, a patient woman with thick glasses, explained very gently to the assembled crowd that peroxide plus residual copper from the algaecide turns hair into hay. She pulled up the chemical reaction on her tablet and showed how Sandra's bootleg beauty routine had essentially created a hair-destroying cocktail when combined with the lake's legal treatments. The cop looked at his notes, looked at me, and said with barely suppressed amusement, "So you followed the rules." She swam past the rules and bleached her hair with pool chemicals. Sandra's civil complaint evaporated on first hearing. The judge, a no-nonsense woman who'd clearly dealt with HOA drama before, dismissed it with prejudice and ordered costs to Sandra. The courtroom erupted when the judge stated with a stern voice, "Madam, you cut a lock, ignored 6 warning signs, removed safety postings, trespassed on private property, and then had the audacity to blame the property owner for your own reckless behavior combined with questionable beauty choices." The county fined her $8,000 for tampering with safety signage, another $5,000 for criminal trespass, and $12,000 for illegal discharge into a storm system. It turned out her DIY salon had been rinsing straight to a curb drain that fed directly into the lake, violating the Clean Water Act. The HOA held an emergency meeting on the tennis court because Sandra had been banned from the clubhouse after the incident. She tried to gavel it to order with a travel mug while wearing a bright pink wig that fooled nobody. The board voted her out 11-0 while a heron stood on the fence like it was applauding by existing. One board member said with relief in his voice, "Sandra, your reign of terror ends today." For restitution, the judge ordered Sandra to pay for complete shoreline remediation costing $32,000, replace all my stolen signage at $300 each, and fund a full semester of wigs for the high school theater program, which came to another $8,000. The news clip that aired that evening ended with the anchor saying with barely hidden amusement, "Tonight, a cautionary tale about the importance of reading warning signs and the dangers of mixing pool chemicals with beauty routines." Sandra stood in the courtroom as the judge read the total damages of $65,000. Her face went through several shades of red before settling on a pale white that matched her patchy scalp. She sputtered with an incredulous voice, "But I'm the HOA president." The judge responded dryly, "Not anymore, you're not," and slammed her gavel. Sandra's shriek of, "This is discrimination against community leaders," echoed through the courthouse as the bailiff escorted her out.